I was not the smartest kid in school by any means. I was in that IEP class. I definitely had to leave when, it was time for testing. Those people, I was one of those people.
Wow.
And a little backstory, I don't want to give too much where I was going or anything like that, but they would give me all of the answers. Wow. They would give me all of the answers. So it got to a point where I knew that it wasn't cool to do that, and I could have graduated out of that. I didn't have to go anymore. Like when I left from Susquehanna to Still High, I didn't have to go to those classes. However, I kept going to those classes because why not? They're giving me all the answers. Every time I go in there, they were just all the tests. They gave me the answers. It's like they kind of pass you through.
Right.
Give me 1 second. So I stayed in that class. And I kind of made it cool. You know what I mean? Right. I was cool, so if I was in there, it was it's kind of cool. It is what it is. But once I graduated, I lied. I didn't graduate. That's the whole thing. Once I left that school, we moved to Harrisburg. And I didn't want to go to Harrisburg High School. I played sports, basketball, and it was like a rival. So it was like, I can't leave, this school to go to that school.
Right.
It didn't feel right. So I started doing online schooling, Connections Academy. It took me 2 years. Years? It took me 2 months to gain, all of the books, all of the computers, everything that I needed in order to do my schooling, and I was not able to catch up. 2 months worth of work, and they needed me to. So at that point, I tried to go back to Still High. My dad still lived in Stillton, and they told me that they were going to hold me back.
Whoa.
Wanted to hold me back, and I'm like, I'm not going for that, right? Not the brightest person. I'm not very good at reading. That was what it is. Outside of that, I was pretty cool, but reading and writing just wasn't my thing. So anyway, I decided that I was just going to go and get my GED. I went to Tri-County OIC, which was down the street. I lived uptown, so it was, right down the street. And I went there, I tested college level.
Okay.
And so I decided that I was going to, still go through their tutoring that they had, because I didn't feel like I knew everything. I didn't feel like I could take that test right away and it just be done with. Right. How can I take this test when I didn't even, go through 11th grade or 12th grade yet? Right. You're saying that I scored college level, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
So the tutoring, the teaching that they had available for me was only 2 days a week, 4 hours a day, which is 8 hours for the whole week. So in that time that I had free time, I decided that I was going to work. And that's when I went to Taco Bell. That's when I started working with you guys. That's when I started working at Champs, right? So boom, really fast, I collected 3 jobs. And it actually got to the point where I wasn't even I would go to those classes, but I kind of got sidetracked. I was working, already doing my thing, already making money. And I kind of just forgot about even getting the GED. Now, 18 years old, I got pregnant with Lola. And I decided that it was something that I needed to have. I haven't really had to use it just yet, but I decided that it was something that I wanted to have when I got pregnant with her. So I stopped going to those classes, and I ended up just going and taking a GED class. And I passed it the first time, everything was cool. And I'm like, dang, I should have been took that, why did I even waste all of that time? But anyway, that was 2016 when I got that. I would have graduated 2015. So after I got that, I was still working 3 jobs. Like I said, I was pregnant with Lola at 18, and I started working at 14. So 14 through 19, even after I had Lola, I took off for a very little bit of time. However, I went back to work. I went back to work working those 3 jobs for a couple months, after I had her. And it wasn't until my mom told me, hey, you need to spend a little more time with Lola. You working too much, And when I brought Lola into this world, I knew financially I was cool, but I didn't realize that was because we're at the expense of me, not being around her that much.
Right.
So I had to take a step back. I figured, I can't work 3 jobs no more, and I was jumping all over the place. I learned everything. I was working, orthodontics, doing teeth, doing braces, and that's kind of where I got the whole teeth whitening thing from. I was doing administrative work for my dad. Once I got my GED, I thought to myself, I wanted to go to school for business administration. My dad, he owns a multi-million-dollar business, and he told me himself, like, no, you don't need to go to school to learn that type of stuff. And when I heard that, it kind of sounded crazy, because it's like, why is my dad not wanting me to go to college? You know, I thought that was something he would want me to do. But he didn't want me to do that, and it made sense because I was, I'd be in debt.
Right.
I'd be in debt, and I learned fast that there was no reason for me to do that. If I want to go to school to get, you know, a business administration degree under my belt, for what? To put it on my resume to work for someone else? I don't need that to work for myself.
Yeah.
It's still something that I wanted to learn. So what I did was, I worked with my dad. He has a whole, you know, group of people, administrative team, you know, bookkeepers. He has accountant under his belt. So I just sat under them, and that was all of the learning that I needed to know that that wasn't what I wanted to do. Right? If I would have went to college for this, I don't want to be behind the scenes. I don't want to be, you know, filing papers, keeping, you know, doing a payroll for someone else's business.
Yeah.
So, you know, it made a lot of sense, and I thank him for that, because it saved me a lot of time by not going to school. Now, I don't not recommend people going to college. I feel like it's probably a very good experience. I feel like you probably gain a lot of friends, you know, in that circle of people that you're with in college. I feel like I haven't been there, so I don't know. But, and it's definitely dope just to learn as much as you can. But if you don't have to, there's no reason really to, get yourself in debt. I feel like that's what the school teaches, you know. They push you to go to college so that you can, you know, be an employee. So you can be employable, and that's really not what it's all about. You know, the 5% of, you know, the world that's entrepreneurs, most of them probably didn't.
Right.
You know, did you?
No.
Well,
I went for like a year.
For a year, but that's not what molded you to the person that you are today.
No way.
It's the creativity. It's, you know, your mindset. It's what you know outside of what they taught you. Now, that probably is like a plus, but it's not something that's needed. Mm-hmm. So I say all of that to say that I finally decided that I needed to work less and make more.
Right.
And when I started, you know, the first thing it was, listen, I told you I was doing the payroll for my dad's business, and I was realizing that I wasn't making as much work behind the scenes that they were making out, you know, doing the work, flagging and stuff. So $40 an hour. You know, I decided that I was going to do that. That eliminated my little cage job. That eliminated the $15 I was making at the orthodontics. You know, I worked all three of those jobs because I wasn't able to make, you know, as much as I needed at one job.
Right.
So when I decided that I was going to do that and get out in the field, it was like a game changer for me, because, I mean, who's making $40 an hour, right? So that was good enough at the moment. But I knew it still wasn't the end for me. Like, I always want to kind of, like, better myself and learn more. I got into doing nails. I went to school for nail technology. And that's because, or I shouldn't say because, but when we're laid off, I only work half a season. So we end up being laid off around October to March. And so with that being said, October to March? October to March. That's a long time. It sounded crazy, but October to March is like when we, you know, are not working. And a lot of the times, like, we still are getting paid from our job. That's why we get paid so much for when we're laid off. But I would use that time that I was down to kind of learn different things. Gotcha. So one of the years, you know, I went to school, like I said, for nail technology. I thought, not even that I wanted to do nails, but I wanted to open up a salon. I got certified for microblading, certified for lashes. I got certified for teeth whitening, and teeth whitening kind of clicked. I was doing nails, but teeth whitening, you know, made the most sense to me. When I was doing nails, it was hard on my back, it was hard on my hands, my fingers, the fumes. It was just, you know, attitude. You have to please people with what they want, but they don't want to pay, you know, the prices that it actually takes. It's taking me 3 hours to do this. I can't, you know, undercut myself. So I ended up taking a step back from that, and that's when I realized that I was making $125 at that time an hour, doing like 15 minutes worth of work doing teeth whitening. And so, like, that was even better than that $40 an hour, you know. So now I'm kind of moving up, and I'm starting to realize, And I feel like, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, realize that when you have something tangible that you can like sell, you know, to the next person, it's like when you're no longer like, you know, giving your time for money,
right,
it's totally different. I'm doing this business class right now, and my coach, she kind of tells this story about how she kind of got into, you know, selling things and marketing and just kind of like being her own brand.
right.
And her backstory is like she was working a regular job. She quit that job. She went to like this warehouse. They gave her a box, right? They gave her a box full of blow up robots. And the box full of blow up robots, she's like, all right, cool, you know, thanks for this, but what am I going to do with this? And they're like, well, I want to sell these for $10 a piece. As long as I get $10, I don't care what you sell them for. You can keep the rest of the money. So what she did was when she left that conversation, she had to go get some gas. So she blew up her thing and she took it in the gas station with her. And it caused so much attraction that they were like, the parents were like, oh, my kid would love that. You know, where did you get that? What you do? She's like, oh, I actually sell them. So what she do? She sold them for $15 a piece. She said she sold over a dozen of them that first stop.
Right.
And when she was able to make, you know, that little bit of money that fast, she realized, like, this is a game changer.
Right.
You know, it's goofy, yeah, but at the end of the day, people will pay for, you know, something. And if now I'm exchanging products for my time, right? So she said all she did was, like, drive around, go anywhere she wanted to go. She'd go to the zoo. She'd go to, you know, the library. She'd go anywhere that she wanted to go throughout the day, just live her regular life. But she would take that robot everywhere she goes, and everyone always wanted to buy it. And she said, you can imagine the second thing that she did, she put the price up, you know, to $20. So now they're getting $10, she's getting $10 for it. And she was just making so much money off that, and she never looked back. She never looked back, never was going to go back to a regular job where she was, you know, exchanging that time for money.